Hi all, thanks for joining us for this pharmacy webinar this evening. We'll briefly go through kind of the programme, a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get right stuck into it. So thank you all very much for joining us. First few things, if we can ask everyone to kind of keep cameras and microphones off, that helps us a little bit with the bandwidth because there's quite a lot of people due to be on the call tonight. This session is being recorded, so don't worry too much about jotting down loads of notes or taking anything down. You'll be able to watch it back on the Liverpool City Region Careers Hub YouTube channel in a few days, so you don't need to worry about that too much. You've got a chat box available, which is depending on your Zoom setup. It's either at the top of the screen or to one side, and it's just a little speech bubble like iMessage or anything like that. If you've got any questions for our presenters or our interviewees today, if you just pop your question in there, we'll pose those for you. And if you want to interact or anything, you've also got the chat box for that as well. This is a very rough guideline of what the times are going to look like today. So I'll hand over to my colleague Leslie Ann in a second, who's going to run our interactive session. So please get stuck into that. After that, we'll go into our interviews, and then we will get stuck right into a Q&A, next steps, and the additional support you can receive, all ready for a very prompt finish at 5:30. Right, so just to let you know before we do kick off, guys, a couple of little bits. Obviously you're joining us from across the northwest tonight. We've got students from Cumbria, Manchester, Lancashire and Liverpool. So although this is very broad, you will be able to get specific support on what's available to you and your next steps from your local UniConnect partnership. So my name's Sarah, I'm from the Shape of Futures team. We haven't got any of the other partners on the call tonight, but if you need help from them, they are really happy to support you. And we will be able to put you in touch with them through the Google Classroom, which I'll talk a little bit more about at the end. So that is everything kind of from me in terms of our intro. So I haven't got any questions on that. So I'll stop sharing screen and hand over to Leslie Ann for this one.
Hello, so if you just wait one moment, I'll just share my screen and then we will get cracking with the next segment of the session. So that should be up now. Yeah, can everyone see that full screen?
Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks Sarah. So if you are new to creating careers, you will have noticed before today's webinar you were sent a piece of pre-work, and that was to ensure that you were as prepared as possible to digest all the valuable information that will be shared with you today. So what we like to do with that pre-work is use it for a pre-work quiz to kick off each live webinar. So we'll spend about 10-15 minutes now talking over themes that we asked you to review in that pre-work. That's to give you a little bit of feedback, make sure that you've understood the key things that we wanted you to, give you opportunity to flag any questions and just get involved and warm yourself up, ready for the rest of the session, making sure you're nice and energized, ready to ask lots of questions to all our wonderful volunteers who've come on to give you their expertise. So it is interactive. Please get as involved as possible. You use the chat and some Zoom polls will come up on screen. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it and share your great ideas with everyone. There will be no scores kept. No, we won't be making any notes of people's names and what they've scored, not at all. This is just for your own feedback so you can see how you've done, check your understanding and enjoy the rest of the webinar, okay? So, pharmacy pre-work quiz. Now, during the pre-work, you were given some really two nice interactive resources for you to explore to find out two things: the different roles within pharmacy, and secondly, the different settings that you can work in within pharmacy. So I'm just going to spend a very short time recapping the roles in pharmacy, because I think we can spend some time, you can ask some brilliant questions to the volunteers and we'll spend some time looking at those roles when our volunteers come on in the later part of the webinar, and then we'll spend more time looking at the different settings within pharmacy. So just to very quickly start off, there were 3 different roles within pharmacy that you explored in that interactive resource in your pre-work. There was the role of the pharmacist, there was the role of the pharmacy technician, and there is the roles of pharmacy support staff. So just to give you a very whistle-stop tour, remember, if I'm saying something and you want to know more about it or you don't quite understand it, that is your chance to pop something in the chat and we will put it to our volunteers. So anything at all about these roles, get your question in the chat. So as a general overview, the pharmacists, we learned that they combine their expert knowledge of medicines and health to provide care to patients with all types of health conditions. So most people's experience of the pharmacist will be when you go to your GP, your doctor, they give you a prescription and you might go to the pharmacy to get that prescription. That will be most people's experience of pharmacy. The pharmacists can advise patients on minor ailments, they can help patients manage long-term conditions, ensure the medicines they are receiving are safe, they're appropriate, they work effectively for the patient, and more pharmacists can actually prescribe medicines to patients, so you don't just need your GP to do that, and they supervise a wider team that includes pharmacy assistants and the technicians. So let's go on to pharmacy technicians. So very quickly, these technicians engage with patients, they offer advice, treatment options, they may be involved in the preparation of medicines, they review and administer the medicines to patients, and they will also work with those other team members like the pharmacist and the pharmacy support staff. So they're the technicians. If you've got any questions about that role in more detail, pop it in the chat and we'll get it answered during the live session. And lastly, you in your pre-work, you were asked to look at the support staff. Now the support staff are roles like pharmacy porters, delivery drivers, medicine counter assistants, the person you might see as the first person you walk into your local pharmacy, and they can assist in things like ordering stock, selling over the counter medicines, and respond to patient queries. So there is quite a variety of roles that you can engage with within pharmacy. So just to warm us up, before we look at the settings of pharmacy, to warm us up, I want you to open the chat box. And I want you to have an estimate for me. I am not expecting anyone to get this right because it's quite a far off figure. But have a guess. In England, so not the UK, not Scotland, Ireland, Wales, but just in England, how many registered pharmacists do you think are working in England at the moment? So open your chat and tell me how many people in England do you think are registered pharmacists? I'd just be interested to see a little bit of fun, see if anyone can get anywhere near the figure. See if there are any guests. Come on, the chat's totally blank. Don't leave me here hanging. Okay, Ruth, thank you so much. 25,000. Anyone want to go higher? Lauren has gone lower with 10,000. Let's see, anyone else want to add to that? Thank you, Claire. We've got 11,000. Come on, there's more people that are on the call. Let's have one more guest before Leon. Thank you very much. 15,000. Diane, wonderful. 18,000. Well, I have to say, if it was a competition, Ruth would have got the closest. The answer is actually bigger than what you've all said. The answer is 42,990. There are a lot of pharmacists working in England. Now, for the similar role, pharmacist technician, same thing. Have a little guess in the chat. How many pharmacy technicians do you think are working in England? We've got 42,000 pharmacists registered. How many pharmacy technicians do you think are registered? Come on, same thing in the chat. Let's see who gets closest. Can't let Ruth win again. Someone else needs to get closer. Okay, Diane, thank you. We've got 35,000. You've upped it. Anyone else? Ruth's gone for 80,000. Anyone else want to add? Quick guess. Thank you, Jackie. Jackie's saying 42,000. We've got Leon saying 60,000. Anyone else want to? Any other takers? Any other takers? Okay. Well, actually, Diane's won that one because the figure's actually lower than anyone guessed. Surprisingly, it's 19,311. So there are 19,311 pharmacy technicians working within England currently, or registered within England currently. Now, as I said to you earlier, if you've got any questions about any of those roles, please put them to the experts on today's session. That's what they're there for. That was just to give you a quick recap on the roles we asked you to research in your pre-work. Now, the second part and the main part that I want to concentrate on is pharmacy settings. I was so surprised when I was doing my research for this webinar, how many different places, environments and settings you can have a career in pharmacy in. So I really want to spend some time looking at those settings and telling you more about them. And you've obviously had some research. You have that wonderful interactive pharmacy career map that we asked you to look at all the different settings through. So before we go through the settings, can anyone off the top of their head tell me any settings, any places, names of places, environments that you think you would work in if you had a career in pharmacy? There might be some really obvious ones that you can pop into the chat. There may be some maybe that are less obvious. Have an idea, have a guess, educated guess. If you're not quite sure, put it in. Okay, Diane, wonderful, thank you. The hospital, definitely, that is definitely one. Hospital, anything else where you think you could work in a career in pharmacy? You've definitely got the hospital. Any other healthcare settings? Come on, don't be shy. Thank you, Diane. The doctors, your GPs, wonderful. Claire, we've got care home, fantastic. Anyone else want to add anything else? There are actually 10 listed that I've got here today, so we've got 3 of them. So Lauren, thank you for the GP practice, wonderful. Anyone want to add anything else? Ooh, Leon, the dentist. Diane, the army. Jackie, fantastic, the community. We've got Claire, I like you thinking, the supermarket. Yeah, you can go into any supermarket, and most supermarkets have them pharmacies in them now, don't they? Industry, Lauren, that's wonderful, and we'll come back to that, industry. So thank you for that. So just to give you a quick whistle-stop tour of the settings, and then we're going to go learn about them in a more interactive way. So that was that really nice careers map that I asked you to look at in the pre-work. So that showed all those 10 areas that we're going to talk about today and gave you really good facts and figures and info about how you could have a career in that setting. And like I say, I was surprised how many settings there actually are to work with in pharmacy. So it can be quite an exciting career to go into. So you've got your GP practice, as has already been suggested. So your normal, the doctors who you'd go to if you were feeling ill, the first place you'd go to. You can work pharmacy set. If you've got a career in pharmacy, you can work in your GP practice. The next one, community pharmacy. So that would be the pharmacy that you would visit with your prescription to get your medicine. So like Lauren said, in the supermarket, you would go, there's a community pharmacy within the supermarket, you would go there and you would get your medicine that way. Hospital, as was rightly identified. We've got NHS organisations. So there's other NHS organisations. You can see that on the bottom right of the map there. That's things like the 111 service. We use that loads during COVID. The 111 is the non-emergency line that you can ring up if you need healthcare advice. If you work within the pharmacy field, you can get a job within the 111 services in the NHS. As rightly was said again in the chat, care homes. We've also got university. You can work as a pharmacist in university, and that could be delivering the degree courses or also doing research on behalf of the university within the field of pharmacy. We've got the pharmaceutical industry now. That was rightly discussed in the chat. We'll come on to them a little bit more in a moment. They are huge, and it's a really interesting industry for you to look at should you want a career in pharmacy. So that's the likes of you'll have heard the word AstraZeneca in line with all COVID, one of the makers of the COVID jab. So they're the likes of big companies who develop and manufacture new drugs or existing drugs, and they will run clinical trials to make sure that the drugs are working correctly and that they're safe, and they will sell and distribute them to wholesalers all across the world. That's a big industry you can go into. There's mental health services that you can work in. We've got health and justice, so prisons, youth offenders services. There's also secure children's home that pharmacists and pharmacist technicians can work in. And there's also other organisations. So by other organisations, it's things like there's an organisation called the Royal Pharmaceutical Society, and they publish things. So they're a publisher, so they'll publish textbooks about anything to do with pharmacy that you may use when you're studying. And they also publish weekly journals. So the likes of the university professors who are doing lots of research within pharmacy, that Royal Pharmaceutical Society will publish them, their findings in weekly journals. So it really is massively varied if you're thinking about this. Oh, your computer's gone crazy there. If you're thinking about this kind of career. So we'll get a little bit more interactive again, and we'll look at some of these settings in more detail. So community pharmacy, as we've said, this is the pharmacy that you may walk into off your street with a prescription from your doctor to get your medicine. So 89% of the population in England have access to a community pharmacy within a 20-minute walk. Now, I worked out before this, a 20-minute walk is about a one mile. There are 12 pharmacies within a 1 mile walk from my house. That's an amazing service. So no matter where you're in the country, 89% of people in England can walk to a pharmacy within 20 minutes. Now, with that in mind, every day, how many people do you think visit a pharmacy in England? So 3 options have popped up on your screen. Do you think it's A, 1.6 million, B, 4 million, or C, 840,000 people? How many people a day do you think go to the pharmacy in England, their local community pharmacy? Let's see the answers when they pop up.
So we've got
Wait.
most people going with 1.6 million, about 57% of the vote, and everybody else has gone with 4 million.
Absolutely marvellous. It is correct, 1.6 million. So you were all asked to look at these kinds of figures within your pre-work, and although I'm not expecting people off the top of their head to remember certain facts and figures and stats, you'll be able to have a good educated guess at this numbers game based on your pre-work. So yeah, 1.6 million people every day visit their community pharmacy. So you can see how valuable that role is to our local community. Right? Next one, the next setting you can work in, it's university. So there are 30 schools of pharmacy in the UK offering MPharm degrees that will set you up for a career in pharmacy. You, if you so wish, could actually work in the university, delivering the degrees or doing the research. So the 30 schools across the UK, so not England this time, the UK, approximately how many MPharm students do you think graduate every year in the UK? Do you think it's 1,000? Do you think it's 12,000? Or do you think it's 3,000? In the UK every year, how many graduates do we have with the MPharm degree?
So 3,000 is winning by a pretty substantial margin, although we have had a couple of votes for 12,000.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you, Sarah. So maybe some people have been actually remembering these stats and figures from their interactive map. It is actually 3,000. 3,000 graduates every year. Okay, so if that's something you think you'd like to work in a university setting, you can do that with a career in pharmacy. Next setting, we've got the big one, the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so it's estimated in 2020 the pharmaceutical industry reached a total market value across the world of $1.43 trillion. So not million, not billion, trillion. That is how huge this industry is, right? Now, it is not just in the UK, it is worldwide, it is massive. So if you're considering a career in the pharmaceutical industry, you can take that across the world if you so wish to go somewhere exotic and work. So countries in the European Union, they contribute to 20% of the world's pharmaceutical sales. So you might want to go and work in Europe somewhere within the pharmaceutical industry. So with that in mind, what percentage of pharmacists working in the UK do you think are employed within the pharmaceutical industry? What percentage of pharmacists do you think in the UK work in the pharmaceutical industry? 4%, 13%, 21%? Let us know in the poll.
So at the moment, they're all roughly even, although 13% is starting to win by a little bit.
Thank you, Sarah. It is actually 4%. 4% of pharmacists working in the UK are employed by the pharmaceutical industry currently. But like I say, it's a huge, massive industry. Could take you anywhere far-flung and exciting. So the last setting we're going to look at is the care home setting. Now, there are around 500,000 elderly and disabled people in residential care within the UK. So by residential care, I mean people who are living in long-term care for support with day-to-day life tasks, kind of assisted living rather than them living at home on their own. And as you can see, 95% of that figure are aged 65 or over. So it's generally maybe older people who feel like they need support day to day with everyday functioning, basically. So as a pharmacist or any kind of pharmacy role, you can work in a care home. Now, thinking about pharmacy careers and what you may do in a care home, on average, how many different medicines do you think care home residents take? So all of those people living in residential care, how many different medicines do you think they take, have been prescribed and take regularly? Do you think it's A, 7.2? Do you think it's B, 4, or C, do you think it's 3.1? Let me tell you, if anyone's got a photographic memory and can remember from the pre-work, put it in, or have an educated guess. What do you think to be the answer to that?
7.2 is winning by a very substantial margin, with everybody but one person going with 7.2.
Fantastic, thanks, Sarah. I have to say, well, you all know better than me, because when I read that, I was actually surprised. I thought it was high. But yeah, it's 7.2. On average, 7.2 different medicines are being taken by residents in care homes. So if we put that into context of pharmacists or pharmacy careers, it shows how essential that role is to the care home settings. You need to make sure that each resident, on average, is getting their 7.2 different medicines, that it's correct, they're taking them at the right time, the medicine's safe, the medicine that they're prescribed is the medicine that they're actually receiving, the dosage is correct, it's suiting them, you know, it's not having any adverse effects on them. That is a huge job. And if you get that wrong, that can be pretty serious for the individual. So it's such an important, valuable job within the care home setting. That is another area for you to consider. If you've got any questions about these settings, put them in the chat. We'll put them to our experts and we'll get them answered the best we can. Okay. So just to finish off, before we hand you over to our lovely live volunteers, I want to bring your attention to the NHS values. If you've been on other Creating Careers episodes, you'll notice that we talk about these a lot, and it's because they are so important. So if you go to slide 3 of your pre-work pack, there is an NHS values challenge for you to complete. So the NHS recruit on something called values-based recruitment. So if you apply for a job or apply for any kinds of course, degree course, or maybe even voluntary work, you have to show that your values, your beliefs, how you should behave every day or in work, match the 6 values of the NHS. So on your pre-work, for each value, if you hover over it, it'll link you to a 1-minute YouTube video about that value, telling you exactly what it is. So make sure you know them, because in any application, you will have to demonstrate that you share those values and show those values in your school life, in your home life, in work, etc. So go to page 3 of your pre-work and we can help you with that part. Now, if you've got any more questions about the NHS value, you think you need more help with that, you need more help demonstrating them in any applications, or you feel you need general career support within the health and social care sector, come to us. We've got you covered, we can help you. So we offer one-to-one mentoring support to support you in your pathway into a career in health and social care. And that can look however you want it to look. We're not asking you to come and meet us several hours regularly in person, not at all. That could be quick email saying, I need help with this, or can you review this? If you've got any advice, or can you show me some resources? It's on your terms. Whatever we can do to help you get a career within health and social care, or the best career for you. So are you interested? Let me know in the poll. Yes, not sure, no. Let me know. Are you interested in that wonderful offer of one-to-one mentoring support?
So we've got about a 50-50 split between yes and not sure.
Okay, fantastic. So no one said no. So that means if no one said no, every single person who's voted in that call should be contacting us to find out more about this mentoring offer. I will put an email in the chat that you can get in touch with. You can also get in touch on our Google Classrooms to find out more about that. This is a very competitive field. Get your applications, get yourself head and shoulders above the rest of the crowd by joining us, Creating Careers family, and taking full advantage of this wonderful mentoring support. So I will put more info about that in the chat now. I think you've all probably heard enough of my voice, so we're now handing over to our wonderful volunteers. There's going to be some lovely interviews for you now. Get your questions in the chat. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so it's going to be me interviewing our lovely guests today. So first up, I am going to be speaking with, sorry, my email doesn't seem to want to work. I'm going to be speaking with Mike. So Mike, if you could pop up.
Hello.
Hi, Mike, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So could you tell us, please, what your job title is and what exactly you do in your role?
Yeah, so I am, well, I'm Mike Hodgins. I am a directorate pharmacist at Trafford Hospital, and I cover the area of medicine. Essentially what that means is I've got a team lead role here. So I look after the day-to-day workload of all the staff. I make sure everyone's turned into work and make sure everyone's okay and happy, and then send them all out. I also look after education of the pharmacists to make sure that they're all kind of on a developmental pathway. They've got objectives to work to make sure they're developing. And then also I have my own clinical role. So I work with work on an elderly care ward, lots of older people, and as you may know, you know, if you've still got lucky enough to have grandparents of your own, you might see that they're on plenty of medication. So I'm the one who's looking at them all and thinking, actually, do you need to be on all those things? Is there anything? And as Leslie Ann actually really well explained it, she knows my job better than me. You know, is it the right thing? Do you need to be on that drug? Do you need to be on that dose? And getting things changed for the better.
Okay. So how did you get into your career? What was the pathway you took to get to where you are now?
So for me, we're talking a few years ago now. GCSEs were around at that time. But yeah, I was actually very motivated to do this, you know, because I looked at it from the perspective of, you know, I like sciences. I'm not, at the time, I didn't think I like, you know, blood and guts and gore and all those kind of careers that might include that. But then I thought, you know, I really want something around healthcare, patients, and I did have a think and looked at the options, and pharmacy became apparent to me. And then basically what I did, and I was probably about, I don't know what the average age is here, but I was probably about like 14, 15 maybe, and I just looked at what GCSEs I'd need at what grade to do, and then A levels to do it. So I kind of worked from that really, and just focused on that.
And what GCSEs and A levels did you end up doing?
Well, at the time, and I don't think it's too different now, you know, but at the time you needed to do GCSEs in chemistry, maths, physics, biology, and I think English, language, and then so that's what I made sure I've got to do well in those. So can't say I worked as hard in all the other ones because there's a lot to do in your GCSEs. I do remember the pain. Yeah, certain ones I spent more time on, but yeah, I've definitely focused on, right, what's my goal? Where do I need to be? What grades do I need to get those A levels? And then I did the same thing for the A levels. Then I thought, right, well, which A levels do I need as well? And obviously getting good GCSEs gets you into a better footing for your A levels. So, and again, for my A levels, I then picked maths, chemistry and physics although I regret doing physics. I wish I'd done biology instead.
So you wouldn't say, because someone's asked in the chat, what sciences do you need to be a pharmacist? So you wouldn't say biology is essential to becoming a pharmacist?
I think it helps. I don't think it's absolutely essential. I think typically I think chemistry is probably the most helpful one, if I'm honest. Biology is helpful. I think what they did on my course, so I went to the University of Manchester, and they basically corralled us all up in first year and said, right, there's the 4, isn't there? So like your physics, maths, chemistry, biology. We all did 3 in those days, and then they said, right, whichever one you've not done. So for me, I'd not done biology. They then put you on like a biology course, so you all got up to speed then. So you were all on a level playing field. But I don't think it's essential. I think you'll pick it up at some point, whether you do it in your GCSEs, but I think it's
Okay,
comes
thank
into
you.
it.
So I know you said a bit before about what you do in your role, but what does a typical day look like for you?
Right, well, typical day for me, the good thing about pharmacy is there's loads and loads of variety. And like I said, I work in hospital, and you've obviously got a great grasp of all the different roles that pharmacists can have. So that's really great to hear. So from my perspective, I have worked in community pharmacy in the past, and I've been in hospital for a long time. But in hospital, really, it's all about there's inpatients and outpatients. My role is more around inpatients. People are a bit more unwell, people who need to be looked after in the hospital setting. And my role is looking after those patients' medications. Again, what doses are they on? Why are they on each thing? Do they need those blood pressure medicines? Could that potentially make them fall? Is it going to slow the heart rate down too much? You know, I'm reviewing all those things against best practice. So things like NICE guidelines, trust guidelines. Hospitals are quite chaotic places, and it's people come and go and patients coming in and out. It's a lot of pressure. But what we're there to do really is support that quality and make sure that the right thing happens for the patient in terms of medications, because there are sometimes errors happen just through slips and trips and errors and things like that from the doctors and the nurses. So we're there to make sure patients' medicines are optimized, like I say, right dose, minimal side effects, and also we're there to think about errors and when things can go wrong. So trying to support systems to prevent errors, managing errors when they do happen. That's a big part of my role. And then also, like I say, management. As a bit more of a senior person, I take the role of looking after others in my team. So making sure they're not overwhelmed with workload. If they are, how do we work? How do we rejig things around? And, you know, at the end of the day, we're one team together, and there's more of everybody else usually than there are of us in a hospital. So we need to kind of look after each other. So yeah, that's day to day, I would say.
Fabulous. So how would you say that your work links with other NHS professionals, so the people that work outside of pharmacy?
Yeah, and again, I'd say that's another great advantage of certainly hospital pharmacy. There's lots of different professionals that you come in contact with. Like I said, primarily on the wards, you'll see doctors of all grades, ranging from the kind of junior foundation year doctors all the way up to consultant level. You've got nurses, staff nurses, auxiliary nurses, or other healthcare assistants, all the way up to senior nurse management. And then you've got other groups like physiotherapists, occupational therapists, and yeah, all the other different groups of people that you see in a hospital. Mainly you're working with the doctors and the nurses, I'd say, because they're the ones that primarily focus on medicines. Doctors tend to prescribe, and the nurses tend to administer, and the classic role for pharmacy is to supply. But again, things are changing slightly now. Pharmacists are becoming prescribers. I'm a prescriber. So yeah, you're working with lots and lots of different teams, but I'd say primarily doctors and nurses, and also the level of doctor changes depending on the type of conversation you want to have. You know, if it's just a slight slip or an error on an admission, you might just sort it out with the house officer. But if it's something more long lasting, maybe it's a difficult conversation around, I don't know, something more high risk or a bit more contentious, you might want to speak to the consultant and get that sorted out that way.
Okay. So if you could give any advice to a student that was interested in what you do, what would that be?
You know what, I would say my advice really is to have a think about where you want to be, try and plan ahead and work backwards from that goal. You know, thinking about what profession do you want? Do you want to work as a pharmacist? Do you want to work as a pharmacy technician? You know, where do you see your career going? Now, then work to that goal. And remember, you know, actually getting to that point is just half the journey. The journey continues once you've qualified in all these roles. So bear that in mind as well. So think about your goal and think about what experience, knowledge, skills you're going to need at that point. So usually you can't go wrong. Excellent communication skills. You're going to need that in all walks of life. Get yourself a job somewhere where you're speaking to the public regularly. You're having conversations. I don't think it hurts to speak to older people as well. They're on the most medications, and people are living older and older with more and more medicines. That's my tip. You know, make friends with all your grandparents' friends and get to know them. So great communication, experience in a pharmacy if you can. You know, community pharmacies are great. If you can get shifts on a weekend maybe, or after work, after school. And yeah, or even as a healthcare assistant in hospital. A lot of doctors start out, you know, before they start their medicine degrees, they'll do shifts as healthcare assistants to really get to grips with patients, like who comes into hospital, get to know the names, get to know the stories, because really that's what healthcare is all about. You know, it's not just about treating a drug chart or you know, someone's a set of notes. It's a person. So really any experience where you can communicate with people, get to know them as people and improve your relationships, I think that would help.
Brilliant, thank you. And just to end on a positive note, what is the favourite part? What is your favourite part of the job that you do?
Favorite bit, I'd say, again, like I said, I do a lot of management, do a lot of education. I love education, to be honest. But my favorite bit is making a difference for a patient. When you have a really unique role as a pharmacist, and like I said, you're usually outnumbered on a ward. There's usually you to all the nurses and doctors, but you're the only one that thinks the way that you think. You know, you've got an attention to detail, and you know exactly how those drugs work, what they do, and what the good things that they do, the bad things that they do, and often you're the only person that thinks like that. So the advantage is making that improvement so that they live a longer life, or they've got just less horrible side effects of things, and that's down to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Mike. If anyone has any questions for Mike, please pop them in the chat. And next up, I'm going to be speaking to Paul Donald. Oh, are you there, Paul Donald?
Definitely there earlier, right? So just
Hi, Paul's on the chat, so I'm just getting her some help to get sorted out. We have got.
Hi, I just got unmuted. Sorry.
there we are.
Apologies. Hey.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So to get started, could you tell us what it is exactly that you do?
So, hi everyone. So my name is Paul Donald. So I am actually a fourth year pharmacy student at the University of Manchester. So just finished my course, still waiting for the results. But yes, so fourth year pharmacy student, about to finish, and yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with my pharmacy career at the moment.
Brilliant. So was it a pharmacy degree that you were doing at university?
Yes, that's correct. Pharmacy degree.
So what are your plans for now you've finished?
So in pharmacy, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the pharmacy structure, but by the time you finish your pharmacy degree, you need to do a foundation year. It's like a training contract that you do for a year in different sectors. So it's up to, I guess, a person to choose where they would want to do that. So you can do that either in a hospital, GP, or in a community shop. So I'm doing mine in a community shop for Collins Chemist. So I'm staying here up in Manchester. So I'm doing that for the year. Yeah, starting at the end of July. So exciting times ahead. Hey.
Fantastic. So what was your pathway into university? What did you do before you started your degree?
So I didn't do my education in this country. So it might be a bit, I guess, irrelevant maybe to the rest of the students, but I did, like most of you, chemistry, bio, those two subjects, and maths, I think. Those three subjects, but I did them in Russia. I didn't do them in the UK. But I guess here you would use similar subjects to get into the pharmacy school. So yeah, but having said that, I entered at the University of Manchester through the foundation year program. So I didn't start straight from the first year. So I did a foundation year program first to bridge the gap between different educational systems, and then I started my first year.
Brilliant. So what was a typical day like for you while you were doing your degree, whether that's in lectures or on placement?
Right. So in terms of the University of Manchester, for example, we get offered a lot of hospital experience placements, as well as community, GP, industry. So they just throw at us a lot of opportunities. And as you progress throughout the course, you get them more and more. So for example, in my first year, I'm in my fourth year. So in my first year, I had quite a lot of lectures, a lot of theory being thrown at me. So my days would start at like 9 a.m. And then I would finish quite late. So it's almost like a full-time job, pretty much, because you get thrown a lot of information at you. And so lectures, workshops, a bit of hospital place, not hospital thing second year, but community placement we had as well. So it's like a mixture of experience and theory as well. So first year was quite full on, as I said, pretty much like a full-time job. And then as you progress throughout the course, you become more independent in a way. Second year is still quite intense in terms of the hours. Again, it's pretty much like a full-time job. But then as you move towards the end of the at the end of your degree, you get less and less contact hours. So for example, now in my fourth year, I probably get maybe, so I would say 20 hours per week, pretty much. That's just theory thrown at me. But then also we have hospital placements as well, which lasts for like a week. For example, my recent hospital placement I had was for the whole week in January, February in the Wythenshawe Hospital. Then you have community placements, like a 2-day placement they offer you. So I would say, yeah, now I'm a bit more flexible with my days. So I might have 2 hours in the morning from 9 to 11, and then I might have like a break, and then another workshop like 2 to 5, for example. So you become more flexible, I guess, as you move along. So yeah.
Fabulous. What would you say is your favorite part of studying for your degree?
I would say the range of skills that pharmacy profession offers, really. Obviously, I've not done any other degree, so I can't really compare. Hey, but pharmacy, I think it's fantastic as a degree because you truly get to learn crucial skills in life. So we, as a healthcare professional or as pharmacists, we interact with patients. And if you think about it, no matter which industry you go into, regardless, whether it's pharmacy, like maybe law or whatever sector you want to tap into, you have to deal with people. Even if you go into the IT sector, you still create softwares or whatever, but then essentially you have to deliver them to people at the end. So with what I like about pharmacy is the fact that I interact with people on daily basis, and I don't just interact with a particular like sector or niche of people, because in the pharmacy you have people entering from all sorts of backgrounds. So just the fact that you improve your communication skills, you learn how to relate to people, you learn how to connect with people, which is important. Also, time management skills throughout the course, I think, because the course is intense, you have to be able to juggle a lot of things throughout the course. You learn how to manage your time properly, which can then be useful when you move further. Yeah, I would say communication skills, time management skills, and leadership skills as well. Because as a pharmacist or as a healthcare professional, just in general, you never work in isolation. You always work in a team. So we have nurses, GPs, speech therapists. So basically what I'm trying to say is that you get exposed to so many useful skills through pharmacy. And that's what I think was that driving factor for me for wanting to do a pharmacy, is that even if I choose not to do pharmacy one day, I will still be a very valuable individual on the market, because I've built myself as a person through this degree, and now I can use those skills in any areas that I want in life. So I think that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Transferable skills are always really important when you're studying.
Okay.
So what would there be any part of it that you would say is your least favorite?
Yeah, there are many of them, I think, but no, I would say yes, least favorite. Let me think. To be honest, least favorite in the moment, but looking back, it was definitely good. I would say the business of the course. Sometimes especially maybe the first 2 years or 3 years, you have that kind of like fear of missing out on things, because you basically have to study whilst your course mates who are doing other courses, they might not necessarily have the same number of contact hours. So when you're in uni, you may be thinking, oh, I have to be in the library that late to revise. Other people are having fun and stuff like that. But then looking back, I think it's, I think it's maybe a good thing, because then you learn how to sacrifice, because at some point you have to learn how to sacrifice certain things in order to achieve something in life. So I think you would rather learn that earlier than later. So for me, I would say just the business of the course, maybe the least I like about it. And also I would say this doesn't just relate to pharmacy course, but how conventional sometimes people might think about pharmacy, because I think pharmacy, as I said, it offers a wide range of skills and opportunities for you. So I would encourage anyone, regardless. Obviously, I don't know what you want to pursue in your higher education, but think of a pharmacy as an opportunity that can open doors to anywhere, really. So for me, what I didn't, I guess, like, not necessarily about the course, but about how people might perceive pharmacy, is that you just have to stick to hospital, community, or GP. But in fact, if you search or if you seek enough, you will find there's so many avenues that people go to with their pharmacy degree. yeah, so I would say yes, just the fact that it's busy, and sometimes people might think about pharmacy as a conventional route that you just have to stick to pathways that are most known of, but no, you don't have to.
Brilliant. And last question. What transferable skills did you learn over the course of your degree that you think were the most useful?
Most useful, okay. Yeah, I think the ones that I mentioned: time management skills, communication skills, and leadership skills. Those three, I think, are most useful because you can apply them pretty much anywhere, really. Yeah, I would say, yeah, those three skills are crucial.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And I'm going to hand back over to Sarah now.
Thank you so much. Thanks to both of our speakers. That was brilliant. So we've just got a couple of last slides to go through. If you do have any questions, please pop them in the chat. This will be one of your last opportunities. Okay, so hopefully you guys can all see a PowerPoint now. So as I mentioned, this is recorded. It's going to go live on the City Region Careers Hub YouTube channel. So you'll be able to watch it back if you didn't catch anything or you want to think about it more in depth, you can do that. You'll also get a follow-up email. Now, this will contain a couple of different things. One is a post-work roadmap that Leslie Ann's kindly developed for you guys. This is basically a chance for you to reflect on this session, start to build those reflective practice skills you'll need in a healthcare career, but also think about what you learn, what you'd like to find out more about. And when you come to doing applications a little bit further down the line, you've got that to look back on. You'll also have an evaluation form in there that's hosted on Google Forms. So you just click through the link and it'll take you to it. We would love to have a little bit of feedback on what you thought about today, how it could be better, how else we could support you. But at the bottom of that evaluation form, you'll have the option to say that you'd like a follow-up one-to-one. Now, this is different than the mentoring support. This is purely from the UniConnect team in your region. And that is to have a chat about the subject you're doing, next steps, personal statements, uni applications, apprenticeship applications, whatever it is that you need help with. So please do take that up if you would like any support. We're really, really happy to help. And yeah, it will also link you to the Google Classroom. Now, you should have already seen this. Basically, it looks like this, and it's a depository of everything that has been shared in any of these webinars. Lots of resources, lots of links, lots of further reading. Really, really useful. So please do join that. Again, there's an email in the there's a link in the email that you can just click through and join it, and then you'll retain access to it. And you'll also have the option on there if, you know, a few weeks down the line, you want to request some extra support from your local UniConnect, you can do that too. And the last thing that we would like to say is, please come along to some of the other webinars. This is not the last one of the series. We've got a couple left. So please do have a look at what else is available and sign up to any of might be of interest. Obviously, you might be like, no, I want to become a pharmacist. This is so inspiring. I'm definitely going to go do pharmacy, and that's awesome. But it can be really helpful to have an understanding of different bits and pieces of the NHS that you might be working with. So it could be useful for you to come along to a couple of other ones as well. So the link to this will be in your email. You should be familiar with the website because it's how you signed up for today. But if you do have any questions or problems with it or anything like that, you can just let myself or one of my colleagues know, and we'll be really happy to help you get signed up. Okay, and that is everything from me. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming along, and we hope you have a really lovely rest of the evening. Okay, I think I've got a raised hand. Did someone have anything to add?
Yes, I was, if I can have, please. So I would just want to say for those students, if you have any questions, I think I dropped my Instagram link there. If they have any questions or they need help with any pharmacy advice or career advice, just feel free to drop me a text there. I'll be more than happy to help with anything. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's so kind. Thank you very much. Okay, so guys, please do click through that link, give them a follow, and then you've got an extra resource there as well. Okay. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to post anything in the chat, and then we will call it quits for the night. And I hope everybody has a really lovely evening.